Hey gamers, welcome to Vlog Matters number 17. There are three kind of big things I want to get through in this vlog, so I'm going to go right into it because otherwise this vlog is going to be super long. The first one is the updates to the code that I've been working on, and basically what I've been doing is rewriting the entire level generation logic, which sucks because it feels like we're taking a big step back in terms of our development stuff, but we're actually not because of the benefits we're getting from some of this code. So let's look at what it's doing a little bit here. So remember, before we were casting all these lines straight out in front. Lines would shoot straight down, see if they hit anything, and if they didn't, they would shoot straight back on the Z towards the player. And if they didn't hit, or if they did hit something, they would generate at that point. If they didn't hit anything, they would start generating at a certain point and then come forward. That's been changed in favor of using a method of recursion, and it seems to be working okay in some of these cases. I'll show you in a little bit where it's not, but you can see these pink houses are kind of lining up okay right now. There's still some problems with them that I have to fix tonight, but what we do is we start with all the way down here at grass test 0, or no number I guess, and then go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we start down here. Maybe it's better if I do a wireframe. Down in this corner, and you can see we kind of generate going to the left. And what we're doing is each time we're taking one of these tiles, is we take a tile and generate a tile to the left and above it. And then we take that left one and pass it in and use that and generate to the left and above it, and keep doing that over and over. Until we get to this very far one, which is some arbitrary point I just defined. I think it's like -400 or something like that. And at that point, what it does is it goes back, it returns, so it doesn't keep going to the left for infinity, comes back to this tile, and then starts processing up. So you can see 26 is that one, 27 is the one on the left, and then 28 is the one above. And then you'll see 28 starts doing the left and then the up and left and up and left and up, and it just keeps doing that over and over and over until it gets all the way to the top up here, jumps all the way back down here, and then goes all the way back up. And there's some checks to see if there's already a tile next to it, so it doesn't do like a collision or keep generating tiles on top of tiles, which is actually what it's doing. I have to figure that problem out right now. So if you can see, actually the wireframe was pretty good for that. Right here where there's like all these crisscrossing lines, those are tiles that are generating on other tiles for some strange reason. And usually it happens, you can see everything was generating kind of fine up until we started generating some of these houses. Then the stuff started getting real weird, and I think I know why. It's just a matter of getting it lined up correctly in the code when I place that stuff. But it seems to work pretty well, and the recursion, while you immediately run it, let's see, I'll run it. It takes like a second for Unity's like editor to kick in, but I think it also might take a second for the recursion to run through, which may or may not be a problem. Right now I'm not loading like a solid color behind this intro screen, but what I could do is load that and then kick off the recursion after that point, because the recursion seems to like want to stick a little bit even though we're only generating this number of tiles. I did one mistake, and I'll show that on the screen real quick. I did generate, I was doing this and running into infinite loops, and then all of a sudden it stopped doing an infinite loop, which was really sweet because that's typically a problem with recursion. But I was still generating 28,300 some tiles in a square, and I wasn't even generating this. Let me turn that back off. Oops. Wasn't even generating this like big green space. I was generating 2 lines of tiles, and there was 28,000 tiles in those 2 lines, which was totally wrong. There's actually supposed to be about 171 in this area I've got right now, and you can see that it goes up to like, I don't know, 2,300 about right now, which is obviously way wrong. There's several that you saw in there were overlaid, especially right in this middle section. So if I can figure that out, I think it's gonna improve this generation quite a bit, and it's not going to take as long to generate when I'm not doing all that extra stuff. Okay, so that was one thing, is the generation that's currently in progress of the level. The second thing is doing a little bit of Blender work with Cubicle. So what we're doing is Cubicle to Blender optionally if there's animations we need to do, and then to Unity. So there's two things that we noticed, actually one thing that we noticed with Cubicle that ends up being two differences. So we got this little guy, and what we did in Cubicle is rather than building him as all separate pieces, separate models, he's just one model here. You can see if I can go into the matrix area. If you're not familiar with Cubicle, just realize that like I can have multiple of these yellow boxes, and each one has a different like model set of cubes inside of it. We built one of these guys as just one object, and then took him into Blender and was noticing that there were some differences in the way we exported. So when you export from Cubicle, we export as a DAE, and I'm just going to do that for right now. And then you get these options for what you want to export as. We've always been exporting as manifold for all the trees and everything. But we noticed if you change non-manifold or manifold, it changes, well, and none, it changes what the resulting polygons look like in the editors going forward. So like if I go into Blender and I look at this guy was exported as, I believe this is the manifold one. So let's import DAE manifold. So you can see, oh, that's not the guy. That's not the guy. I'm such a noob with Blender still. That is the manifold guy, okay? So let's do a new thing here in Blender. Delete this stuff. And then import the non-manifold one. So remember, actually it's probably easier to just show it. Non-manifold. If I jump into edit mode, you can see he doesn't have like those polygon lines across his face and stuff, if you noticed that before. I can import that other guy. Let's see, how do I move this guy? Something like this, right? You can see right there, there's all those lines that the manifold version gets. And that's because it's creating all those square faces as polygons. But I don't know if we want to do that. I think we might want to do it this way. It might just be easier on our animation and the way it stretches and everything, but we're not quite sure yet. We got to try it with both ways, I think. It's also kind of weird that like Blender seems to, or Cubicle, sorry. There's some spots where like it does these things, like right under this guy's chin. It creates some vertices like here, and that's because it's doing these like square boxes under his chin, which is okay. But if I was to clean this up, which I was doing some of that yesterday, I'd take like one of these vertices and just merge it with this corner one, so you've got just like a trapezoidal kind of thing under his neck. But if I do that, that messes up the entire texture that comes out of Cubicle, and then we have to retexture him in Blender, and we can't just take the texture in Cubicle. So the point is that like if we have this guy in Cubicle and we want to create a pirate version of this guy, we can just create the pirate version in Cubicle, export it in the same manner, and then just use the texture and have all the animations and everything there if the animations are the same. Otherwise, we would have to go into Blender and retexture it all manually, which is okay, but then everyone has to learn Blender versus learning Cubicle, which is quite a bit easier, in my opinion. So that was the second thing we've been working with, trying to figure out which one of these versions of exporting we should be using. And then the third thing is that I started setting up the, you can see back here is a keyboard, a musical piano keyboard. And then like this black square thing right here is a Mac, and I've got it hooked up so when I play on the piano thing, it goes into an audio input box I've got, and then into my Mac, and then record it through GarageBand. I'm trying to work on determining the audio creation process, because right now we're using all stuff that was picked up off of the asset store, and it'd be cool to make all of our own audio. This piano thing has got some okay sounds, but for the most part the sounds are really clean and not exactly what I'm looking for this game or quite a bit of the other games. When I was trying to do some of that stuff for Torment and it wasn't really working right, or wasn't sounding right, so there's a lot of like stuff I was gonna have to play with it. So what I did is I hooked it up, did some playing around with GarageBand, to figure out how to connect the two and get them to play nice and record and make it really easy, so I can just record and then export it and put it in the Unity. So here's a little test like song thing I played on the keyboard over there and recorded. It's pretty repetitive, and it just kind of like cuts at the end. I don't know why. It might be the way I like exported it, but so basically I've got some audio equipment coming to record some cooler sounds and stuff, but in the meantime I'm going to be working on this coding stuff, maybe play around a little bit on the keyboard just to get some more sounds and stuff, but right now it's not something I'm like majorly focused on. Also, I just noticed two of these houses are like sitting on top of each other. That's probably a problem with all these tiles just overlapping. Okay, so recap. Looking at recursive algorithm for generation of the level. Looking at how Cubicle to Blender to Unity, how that process works, and actually, if I can get it, our animator did a little test rigging and animation. I'll put that up here while I continue to talk. And then last thing was the audio, doing some testing with the audio, getting that so it's set up, sounds okay, and brought into Unity. And then we should be good from there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be coded, and having to do this stuff again from essentially scratch. There's quite a bit of the generation logic was kept, but it was the placement logic that was really changed. Having to rewrite that kind of felt like a step back, but I think when you look at it, even though it's buggy, it's faster and it's cleaner from a code perspective, and I think it's going to be more it's going to be better on performance going forward compared to what we were doing before, because we're not going to have to do as much. We're still going to have to do checking on the edges for when the player is moving and stuff, but we're not going to have to do as much with the rays and having all these rays casting that just don't need to be casted in a 3D space. So hopefully next time we have this this little vlog thing, some more work has been done on the code. Hopefully we'll be a little further with some of the animations, preferably into the editor with animations already, and hopefully we'll be back at a playable state rather than just a loading state, which we're at right now. So until then, I'm going to continue to keep working, and I will see you guys in the next vlog.